Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, of course, continuing on with the Planet of the Apes review marathon. Now we come to the final chapter to the original line of the Planet of the Apes films, starting with the first one in 1968. And also, it's called it would also be considered the Legacy Planet of the Apes films. Because, I have a DVD copy of the entire collection of the original line, the line of the Planet of the Apes films, and, the Legacy collection. So, yeah. So we've come to the final chapter to the original Planet of the Apes, and, because, like I said, because 20th Century Fox, they were just, getting out a lot of Planet of the Apes films starting in the early 1970s, when the 1970s decade began, from Beneath, Escape, Conquest, and finally, Battle. And I think by this point, because, it seemed like we were, back then, because there was too much Planet of the Apes. And not long after at the time, the final chapter of the Planet of the Apes movie series, 20th Century Fox would spawn, and which being canon to the original movies, two TV shows, one live action, which Roddy McDowall would star in, and one animated. And after that, that would be it, until fast forward and we know what would come next. But yeah, so the final chapter, Battle for the Planet of the Apes, James Rolfe, aka the Angry Video Game Nerd, he said it best when he was reviewing Battle, along with all the others. If you've seen his review of the Planet of the Apes sequels/reboots, Battle for the Planet of the Apes being considered the stalest. And, after watching it for the first time, me, of course, I'm talking about me watching it, I gotta say, Battle for the Planet of the Apes is not all that bad. I quite enjoyed it. Sure, it's not one of the best sequels to the original Planet of the Apes, and nor is it good like, say, Escape and Conquest, because those two are great Planet of the Apes sequels. But at least Battle is no way near on the same, level and such, levels like say, Beneath, if you get what I'm saying. So, yeah, and in other words, Battle is not as bad as, say, Beneath, okay? But like what I've said about Beneath, and there are those like myself, how we feel about Beneath, and the same goes for Battle, how I feel about Battle and everybody else. And to any of you guys who would consider Battle being one of your favorite Planet of the Apes films, everyone has a favorite Planet of the Apes film, and that's a fact. So, yeah, Battle for the Planet of the Apes, because, taking place a couple of years after, what happened in the events of Conquest, which, at the end of Conquest, basically, that's where the birth of the Planet of the Apes officially began. And like what my dad said about Conquest and all the other Planet of the Apes films when he joined me for Conquest, and for those of you that have not seen that review that came out earlier today, go check that out before you watch this, okay? And yeah, by the way, I almost forgot to point out, and as it was mentioned in me and my dad's review of Conquest, it's just me reviewing Battle, obviously, so yeah. Because, starting with Conquest and from there on, because because this is how the Planet of the Apes was born and created, and how many years later the astronauts would return to their home, basically, even though they didn't know it at first. So, yeah, like what my dad said. Because Battle for the Planet of the Apes was a necessary, next installment and such, and where the story was going, and best said by James Rolfe, how he said it. Yeah. So again, for me, because I quite enjoyed Battle for the Planet of the Apes. I don't know if I would consider it one of my favorite of the Planet of the Apes sequels, but I did quite enjoy it. So yeah, in fact, moments where I was just getting just really like, oh my gosh, like, what is gonna happen? Especially towards the end, and until I get to that, of course. But, as always, read the description / the story. Battle for the Planet of the Apes is the final chapter in the sci-fi movie series. In this chapter, a tribute of human atomic bomb mutations are out to make life miserable for the peaceful ape tribe. The story is told primarily in flashback, with the opening and closing taking place in the year 2067. And here's another description of, the story and such, I thought I'd also read this as well. 10 years after a worldwide series of ape revolutions and a brutal nuclear war among humans, Caesar must protect survivors of both species from Indicis human cult, I might be mispronouncing that, you know me sometimes, bear with me, human cult, and a militant ape faction alike. Okay, so battle for the Planet of the Apes itself and what goes on, because, yeah, and like I read, because, like, in 2067, because there's a lawgiver telling the story, what happened 600 years ago, and there is a little recap. There's a recap on what happened in Escape and Conquest, and archival footage of those two films, and, seeing Zira and Cornelius, and with what goes on in Conquest, and how, well, towards the end of Conquest, the birth of the Planet of the Apes happened, and so on. And what happened afterwards, and a couple of years later, and where the primates are at, and the humans as well, and the lawgiver, who appears at the beginning and the end of Battle, being played by the late John Huston. And yeah, I know his face is familiar, and I know I've probably seen John Huston in a couple of other films, and he'd be best known for being in the movie Chinatown. Yeah, so he was in that film. And so, yeah, so with the lawgiver telling the story and such, even though there's no narration throughout the film, okay? It's one of those movies where it doesn't have a full-on narration. And I think a good thing, too, and for this. So, we get our opening credits, and we see one gorilla soldier riding through Ape City, and what Ape City looks like in this. And one of the humans is actually played by a young John Landis. His character is called Jake's friend, and, well, because one human named Jake being played by Michael Stearns. Yeah, and I actually did watch a little bit of, and it's on YouTube. John Landis. Yeah, gotta slow down. John Landis. He was talking about Battle for the Planet of the Apes and his experience being a part of that film, and he also mentioned that Battle being the lowest budgeted Planet of the Apes film. But I think for me personally, I think the budget in Battle was pretty good, besides, like, look at the first Planet of the Apes film. They wanted to have the apes live in this highly functioned city with automobiles and stuff like that, but the original film didn't have the budget for that, so they made it look like how it looks in the first two films. Kind of almost like Bedrock vibes, I want to say, and that was what was in the first two Planet of the Apes films. How Planet City looked was more appropriate, okay? So, and with apes. So anyways, of course, by this point, in Battle, well, we see all the primates, from the chimps, orangutans, and the gorillas, wearing the exact same clothing as we saw in the first two Planet of the Apes films. And, of course, they all can talk now, not just Caesar, and Lisa as well, because Lisa started to talk at the end of Conquest. And once again, Caesar being played by the late legendary Roddy McDowall, and Lisa once again played by the late Natalie Trundy, and also a couple of human characters whom we saw in Conquest. Like, there's McDonald, once again played by the late Austin Stoker, and I think he's just the only one on the side of the apes, you know, and being an ally to Caesar and so on. Which, yeah, and I think, yeah, because he becomes an assistant to Caesar, yeah. And we see, because, you know, like, there's one moment where we see a school, and a teacher teaching them how to speak like, you know, them humans. And, well, there's one primate, which being a gorilla, who technically is the antagonist of this film. Not just him, but another one who's an antagonist, which being a human, and until, you know, we get to him. But the primate antagonist being Aldo, a guerrilla soldier, he's a general, and Aldo being played by the late Claude Akins. I almost said Claudie. Claude Akins, I would remember him best, because he's done a lot of great films, but for me, because I remember him in one, you know, gem of a Twilight Zone episode from the original Twilight Zone. The monsters are due on Maple Street, if you remember that episode, and Claude Akins' role in that. Yeah, so that's him. So him playing Aldo, and Aldo, because you can tell right away, it wouldn't take you too long to know what the character of Aldo is like. Well, he is against humans. He has a big hatred for humans, and he hates being under the leadership of Caesar. And you can tell at times that Aldo wants to rule himself, and even a couple of other guerrilla soldiers start to follow Aldo's leadership and such. His leadership, basically. And things are not going too well at the ape school, and for Aldo, because he's to attend the school, and he was late. And the teacher, yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's him. The teacher being played by Noah Keane, and, yeah, because Aldo misbehaving and such. And we also, in the class, there's Caesar and Lisa's son, Cornelius. What a coincidence, being named Cornelius. And Cornelius being played by Bobby Porter. Now, at first I was thinking, could Cornelius be the Cornelius who would grow up years later? But actually, no, and I think it's obvious. And besides, you know, Caesar obviously naming his son after, you know, Caesar's father, and, you know, that being Cornelius's grandfather. You get the basics. So, yeah, Cornelius, I mean, he's doing very well at school, even what he wrote to the teacher, and this thing that goes on a couple of times, you know, ape must not kill ape and such, however they say it. And, again, Aldo just misbehaving. He even at one point, because, you know, what he was supposed to write for the teacher, all of them, and giving it to the teacher of what they wrote and such, and what Aldo wrote and gave it to the teacher, and then Aldo at one point ripping what Cornelius wrote and gave to the teacher, and at one point the teacher saying, "No, Aldo, no," and all the apes are in a total shock, because basically, as explained by Virgil, one of the new characters in Battle, being played by the one and only Paul Williams. Yes, Paul Williams, you know, music and songwriter, that Paul Williams. And who would go on to do a lot of, like, songs and such for the Muppets. And on the side of acting, and voice acting, that is, he would go on to voice the Penguin in the 1992 Batman animated series. Yeah, so that's cool. So him as Virgil, him as an orangutan in Battle, well, Paul Williams didn't disappoint. I think Paul Williams did a really good job in this. Not to mention, because, fun fact, while he was working on Battle for the Planet of the Apes, Paul Williams was scheduled to perform and be a guest star on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And he was still in his orangutan wardrobe and makeup and such, and he just chose to stay in it and go on to appear on Johnny Carson, singing a song and just sitting up there with Johnny Carson. Why not? And obviously, the audience and Johnny Carson, they were well aware, of course, that Paul Williams was working on one of the next installments of the Planet of the Apes movie franchise, obviously. And that was so funny. That was so funny, and that shows a good sport that Paul Williams is. And how he managed to have no problem singing and talking. Well, I mean, aside from talking, but singing in that makeup. It's fantastic. Again, what a good sport and trooper Paul Williams is. So again, Virgil explaining to the teacher that it is forbidden for humans to say the word no. Apes saying no is perfectly fine, and obviously this is a callback to what happened in the events of Conquest. Like, every single time, like no matter what, the humans saying no to the primates, then they also said do, but most notably it's no, okay? So, well, that explains it. But you know what, there are a couple of times where I think, yeah, especially that goes for McDonald, where he says no. And I guess, well, because, I guess for Caesar, it's okay if McDonald says no, even if it's if it's up front of, saying it in front of Caesar, you know. And things just really get out of hand. Like, you know, Virgil, he does tell the teacher to apologize, but to apologize to Aldo, basically. But Aldo, he's not having it. He wrecks the school, and then they start to chase the teacher, Aldo and a handful of guerrilla soldiers that attended school. And, well, Caesar, hearing this commotion and confronting Aldo, and you can tell because Caesar knows that Aldo is trouble and a misbehaved primate. And, yeah, of course, Virgil being a witness and explaining what happened, as well as Caesar's son Cornelius, explaining this all to Caesar, and, you know, setting Aldo straight and such, and telling him to clean up and put everything back the way it was at the ape school. And, yeah, so, I mean, what can Aldo do as of right now until later on in the film? And Cornelius, he wants to be done with school and, you know, play and such. And Caesar, you know, tells his son, "Can you not do your homework at home?" And, you know, and Cornelius says yes, but then Caesar tells him, you know, all right, go and play, and so on. Yeah. And then there's a moment between Caesar and McDonald where talking about the future and such, and yeah, because McDonald, like, talking to Caesar about, like, what the future could possibly be and such, and Caesar can't see it, that kind of stuff, and McDonald telling Caesar that he would know that, and he could listen to his deceased parents, Cornelius and Caesar, and Caesar's wondering how, because, you know, they've been long dead, but McDonald tells him that they're still here, and, you know, like, in other words, like, they're here, but, you know, they're around, and with what they've written and such, all that. And McDonald then says that gives a solution and an option by finding archival recordings / tapes of Cornelius and Zira when they were recorded and taped during the events of Escape, and the possibility that they still survived. And where could they possibly be? Well, obviously, because they'd have to go to one location where it's off limits, and that being the Forbidden City, where the Forbidden City was once what it was in Conquest. That one location that's all throughout the entirety of Conquest, that place, that's the Forbidden City, what it is now. And, well, Caesar is willing to do so and to find tapes and such and recordings of his late parents, and he is accompanied by McDonald and Virgil. And, yeah, Virgil, because he's one of the orangutans. I think, yeah, he's one of the scientists. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure for the orangutans, that's their purpose, yeah. So, Yeah, Virgil, again, he's a great character in this. Real and one of those primates that's a good monkey. You get what I'm saying. And the same goes for Caesar and Lisa. For Planet of the Apes, there always has to be a couple of good primates, and they respect and like humans. Because from Cornelius and Zira to in the future Planet of the Apes films, and until I get to them, you get what I'm saying. So, well, Caesar, of course, informing Lisa what he's gonna do, and then, well, because he does tell his son Cornelius that he'll be gone like a 2 or 3 day trip and such, into the Forbidden City, and Cornelius asks his father, "What will you bring back for me, and what would you like?" asks Caesar, and he asks his father something for his pet squirrel, because Cornelius has a pet squirrel. Okay, so, yeah, and afterwards, because, after Caesar says his goodbyes for now to his wife Lisa and his son Cornelius, they first go to this other wise orangutan who is the keeper of weapons. He keeps weapons in this one hut, I want to say. Mandamus, if I'm saying that name right, I'm pretty sure. Being played by the late Lou Iris. I might be saying the last name right. Again, you know me sometimes. And because Mandamus's moments, and when they knock on the door and he answers, and why do you want these weapons, and just sometimes it's kind of a struggle to explain to him and to why they need weapons and so on. And I think, yeah, with the help of McDonald better explaining what they're doing, and thus, well, because they get what they need on their journey, and, well, because, yeah, what happens next is Caesar, Virgil, and McDonald, they proceed on to the Forbidden City, and little do they know what lies in the Forbidden City. Because, the Forbidden City, also called Modern City, is the city where Caesar's rebellion took place in 1991, beginning with the Night of the Fires, which that I would have mentioned, when I first talked about the Forbidden City, but still. So them traveling to the Forbidden City, it's in this deserty location, and, yeah. And I'm not sure if Battle for the Planet of the Apes established this. We know, in the opening and closing to Battle, what year it takes place, 2670, with the lawgiver telling the story, but for the year of battle with Caesar and such, I don't think it did establish it. I'll have to go back and look, and if I do find it and such, I'll put a text and such, to let you guys know. But like I said earlier, clearly, because the events of battle and with Caesar and such, clearly it takes place a couple of years after the events of what happened in North America of 1991 in Conquest, okay? So, continuing on, because Caesar, McDonald, and Virgil, they travel to the Forbidden City, where it once was, well, what it was in Conquest, in this deserty location, and thus, and what they know about the Forbidden City is it's contaminated, there's radiation and stuff like that, and they seem to do all right. Like, they can't stay there that long. And, they'll do whatever it takes and as fast as they can to find the archival recordings and tapes of Caesar's late parents, Zira and Cornelius. So, so they make their way inside down below, and them trying to find the archival section, the archival room, however it's called, with the word archival. And little do they know what is in the Forbidden City, and when they go inside in one building where they can find the archival tapes and so on. Well, humans are still living in the Forbidden City, because they thought at first that Caesar, McDonald, and Virgil, that is, they thought at first that it was deserted, it was abandoned, nobody was there. But there is. Someone is still there. A handful of people who there's a lot of stuff that how they describe them, like, you know, mutated, they're infected by radiation and stuff like that, and I don't know, possibly the start and origins of there being humans who become mutants because of what was in Beneath, if you get what I'm saying, including one thing that lies in the Forbidden City that we know was in Beneath and had a huge part in Beneath until I get to that and mention it, of course. The governor? Yeah, the governor. The governor in battle this time being Culp, who we saw in Conquest. Now he's the governor and stuff like that, the government and so on. Once again being played by the late Severn Darden. Yeah, so he's another one of those human characters who we saw in Conquest come back for this. Not just MacDonald, but him too. And it's nice to see that, you know, because there is another mutant, I believe it's Mendez, yeah, Mendez, who, you know, tries to convince and advise Culp that, you know, maybe they come in peace and they don't mean to harm us or anything like that. But Culp, he doesn't give a shit. Pardon my French, but it's true, basically. You know, he does not care. Like, and here's the thing, because yeah, Culp, he's the one human who he's the human antagonist in this. On the side of primates, it's Aldo. They kind of share a little bit in common. On the side of Aldo, he's against humans, and he wants to, you know, wipe out the humans and stuff like that. While on the side of Culp, he is against primates and stuff like that, and he wants to see them destroyed and so on, and thinking that the primates have brought war to them and such. But of course, Caesar, Virgil, and MacDonald, they didn't. So yeah, all they did by coming to the Forbidden City was go into the archives and find those tapes. That's all. Even though they were armed, they just wanted to take precaution. Even Mendez knew this. He had a feeling that this would be the case, and which it is. They didn't come to attack and stuff like that. Yeah, so Mendez, yeah, being played by the late Paul Stevens. There's also, I think, the right hand of Culp, Alma, I think I might be saying that right, being played by Francie Nguyen, if I'm getting her full name right. And there's also the mutant captain being played by the rich Estam. I hope I'm getting that right. So, okay, but continuing on to speed things up, because, yeah, eventually, Caesar, Virgil, and MacDonald, they find the archival room / section, and they proceed on. But they did, however, trigger, like, a detector, even though they didn't know that. Obviously, the humans, who are mutants and, like, they're infected and such with, you know, radiation, they are aware of their presence. Even they're surprised to see, because, well, they know Caesar, they remember Caesar and MacDonald, of course, but they don't know who the orangutan is, which being Virgil. And so, well, they go into the archives, and they successfully find the archival audio tapes and recordings of Caesar's late parents, and, you know, Caesar finally getting to see footage of what his parents were like, what they looked like, and so on, for the first time. And obviously, because, you know, with archival shots of Zira and Cornelius, and what they said in Escape because of Otto, what Otto made them say, you know, golly. So Caesar, MacDonald, and Virgil, they've heard what they've heard with the archival recordings and tapes of Zira and Cornelius, and Caesar making a comment about this and so on, and, you know, with the future, and to speed things up some more, because, yeah, it doesn't take too long for Caesar, Virgil, and Cornelius, and, well, not Cornelius, MacDonald, I hated getting names mixed up, don't you? To realize that, well, because they have there's company, they're not alone, they've got company, and who is still living in the Forbidden City, and, well, because, Culp ordering the troops to, well, at first, bring them in alive, but a little bit later that doesn't last long, and he orders them to murder them and prevent them from escaping. And there's a little chase that happens, and with Caesar, Virgil, and MacDonald fighting against the humans/mutants, and, you know, them being affected by the radiation, and, yeah, even, like, say they pass by a couple of others who they're not as active and as the others, you know, just, you know, that kind of stuff. Even when at one point they have, they got a hold of Virgil, and of course they break Virgil out of there, and, them still being chased and fired upon. Even at one point, when they're climbing, well, Caesar, he activates like a water hose, like a fire hydrant or something, a fire hose. And yeah, it does work, like the force and power of the water being shot. And, well, of course, they thankfully escape, and they successfully escape, I should say. And, well, because still, Culp believing that they have brought war upon them, and, again, because, Mendez trying to convince and tell Culp that that's probably not what they've done, but Culp, he's not having it. He believes what he wants to hear and see, that kind of stuff, yeah. And thus, well, he's planning to bring the war to the apes, and little do they know, the Ape City, what's coming towards them very soon. Well, because, yeah, back at Ape City, because things still kind of out of hand, especially for Aldo, and when they do make it back, because Aldo confronting his king, Caesar, of, you know, him going to the Forbidden City, and, you know, even like Aldo telling his king, that being Caesar, that, you know, going to the Forbidden City is forbidden. And, well, yes, but Caesar, you know, for him, it was acceptable, you know, and he is the law. He sets Aldo straight. And then there's a conference meeting, and he informs all the primate mates on, you know, his experience going for the Forbidden City and knowing the future and so on. And Aldo, you know, he's still not having it. He is just by very slowly but surely about to turn against Caesar. And I think you can tell, if you can, you know, and with what's going on with Aldo by this point. And even, like, at one point, clearly this was Aldo's doing. He sent 2 guerrilla soldiers out to, you know, do a scavenge and such, scavenging, and any sights of the humans coming towards Ape City and so on. And, well, because, again, just, you know, what happens next in Ape City and for Aldo and Caesar, and to speed things up some more, because, well, one evening, because, you know, Caesar and Lisa having a conversation, and this is about the Forbidden City, and so on, and, well, because, yeah, what happens next is, okay, yeah, let's come to the 2 guerrilla soldiers, because they were on the lookout and scavenging for any signs of humans coming towards Ape City. And that's the thing, because the humans / the mutants, best way to describe them, they find out the location of the Ape City, and thus they plan to make their destination under the command of Culp. Yeah. And here's another thing, because the vehicles that the humans / the mutants have, obviously, because, you know, them being in the Forbidden City, like, obviously, because, you know, for battle and such, like, yeah, they have a couple of jeeps like you would see in the army and so on, but they do have a couple of cars and 1 school bus. I don't know, I mean, I kind of find that funny, like, you know, they're using a school bus, but at the same time, you would understand, and with the aftermath and such of the now Forbidden City and the vehicles that they have and are still fully functional, you get what I'm saying, you know. And yeah, with the 2 guerrilla soldiers, they do see that, well, because at one point, the humans / the mutants, they proceed on their destination about to, you know, bring a war to Ape City, and the two gorilla soldiers, they try and do something about it by tackling one of the humans / the mutants, and it doesn't take Culp and the others too long to locate and discover the two gorilla soldiers, and thus Culp orders them to fire upon where they're at. One of them survives, the other one dies, and the one gorilla soldier who survived came back to Ape City and talked about this, reported this, and I believe, yeah, because this was before or after this, because Cornelius. What happens to poor Cornelius? Well, one evening, Cornelius, because he was awoken by something, and I think maybe at one point his squirrel got out, I'm pretty sure, and I guess he was retrieving his squirrel, and then he heard some talking, and he found out that behind Caesar's back, Aldo was planning to turn against Caesar, and of course to kill the humans, etc. And yeah, Cornelius sneaking up to them and hiding in one of the trees. Although, yeah, sure enough, he makes a noise, and the guerrilla soldiers, as well as Aldo, discover that Cornelius was listening the whole time to their conversations and plots, and I think, yeah, Aldo was gonna do something to Cornelius if he did not cooperate and came down from the tree. And, well, because what Aldo does next is, climbing up a tree, and Cornelius trying to get away from Aldo, and he gets on a branch, and, well, Aldo, he starts cutting and stabbing the branch that he's on, and causing Cornelius to fall and hit his head. At first, when I was watching Battle for the Planet of the Apes, I was like, is he dead already? Like, is he dead? Like, I had a feeling that something like this was coming. Well, at first he did survive, although it was very severe, a severe hit to the head, and you could tell because of the position where he fell and such. And, well, because the guerrilla soldiers and Aldo getting out of there, especially when Lisa is looking for Cornelius, her son, and she sees what happened to Cornelius, and the aftermath of that, and, well, because thinking that, well, the branch must have cracked or something. But then MacDonald, he realizes, and even before he got a chance to tell Caesar and the others that, no, someone cut that branch. Yeah, and what happens next is, yeah, because that one guerrilla soldier that survived and came back with information on, well, the humans and mutants now coming to attack. Well, Aldo, because Caesar is not present at this point, because for a little while he stays by his son's side as he's being taken care of and treated by the wounds. So with Caesar not present, Aldo stepping in and basically causing trouble, and by throwing the humans in the corral. I think, yeah, that's how you say it, corral, if I am pronouncing it right. Again, you know me sometimes. By throwing them in the corral, and another way to describe it, like the dungeon, basically, a cage. And like, kind of like similar to those cages that we saw in the first two Planet of the Apes films, those. I'm pretty sure they were called corrals as well. But yeah, so all of them, including MacDonald, they're thrown in there. Yeah, Caesar being totally unaware of this, and Virgil, like, almost like getting the chance to inform Caesar about this. And yeah, coming back to Caesar, because again, him staying by his son's side, and the human doctor that's trying to make Cornelius feel better. It's a female human doctor, being played by Heather Lau, yeah. At one point, because the doctor tells Lisa that there's a chance that Cornelius may not survive, and Lisa doesn't want Caesar to know about this yet. And, yeah. And you know what? I technically predicted that, well, the chance of Cornelius dying when he first fell, but, luckily he survived for now, but how severe that was, yeah. And, yeah, and let's come to that, because, Yeah, like one moment where Caesar and Lisa still by their son's side while he's in bed, and this was mentioned, I think, twice or for a third time, where Caesar hopes that his son would become tall as a king and so on, and follow in his footsteps. And and when he would say that once again to his son, well, because Cornelius sadly dies, and that was very sad. That was very sad, and even because both Lisa and Caesar breaking down. But after that, because sure enough, well, because the humans / the mutants, they arrive, and because all hell breaks loose, starting a battle. But actually, right before that happens, because Virgil finally got the chance to inform Cornelius about what Aldo has been doing, and of course Caesar is furious by this, and to see all the humans, which, yeah, because all the humans that were helping and serving the apes in Ape City, they were treated very well, and under, Caesar's rules and such. But yeah, Caesar being furious what Aldo has been doing, and ordering Aldo to let them go out of the corral / the dungeon, and right after he said that, that's when, boom! The humans / the mutants unleash their weapons with firepower and stuff like that. Yeah, the battle begins. And so we see all the primates, not just the gorilla soldiers, but, the chimps and the orangutans, they all join in, they fight off against the humans / the mutants, and, and even Caesar and Virgil, they join in and such, and, really cool action sequences, and with what goes on in this, and even, we a couple of times cut back to seeing the human female doctor, and Lisa still in, the home of Lisa and Caesar, and still staying by the side of now Cornelius's deceased body and such, at one point, because the primates, and under, the command of Caesar, he orders them to fall back, and that's what they do. And at one point, the closer the humans / the mutants get, they think, and we see that the primates, we see a couple of their bodies. It seems like they were killed and such. And even Caesar, Culp coming face to face with Caesar after quite some time and after the events of conquest, and Culp confronting Caesar and having him at gunpoint, and telling Culp telling Caesar, I should say, that the chance of everything going back to the way it was like in conquest and such, and kind of mocking Caesar, and the female human doctor and Lisa overhearing this, and they can see Caesar's in trouble, and at one point, because I think, right before they were about to shoot and kill Caesar, Lisa said, "No, Culp, no!" And then Virgil throwing a grenade or something, and then Caesar telling all of the other primates who are pretending to be dead, act like apes and such, and that's what they do, throwing nets at the humans / the mutants, all that, and Caesar orders them not to kill them, but to take them as prisoner. However, a couple of them, especially Culp, they escape in a couple of the vehicles, in the school bus, the one school bus that Culp is in, and all the others. They try to escape. However, and I should have seen this coming, because where was Aldo? He kind of wandered off / disappeared while the fight was going on. But sure enough, and again, I should have seen this coming, he and the other guerrilla soldiers who were following, the general, Aldo that is, they were on his side, following his orders, and following his lead, I should say. Well, they go in and attack and kill / murder the humans / the mutants. And Culp, obviously, Culp gets killed as well. And thus, well, Aldo got what he wanted so far, as well as all the other guerrilla soldiers under his lead, and they chant him. And then we come back to all the other primates and Caesar, and, them chanting Caesar as well. And what they do next is, well, because Caesar, he wants those humans that were, living in Ape City, especially McDonald, to be let go of and to be freed. And because of, with what Aldo did. But Aldo, he's not having it. He is putting his foot down and confronting Caesar like, you step back or we will shoot you too. And Caesar, well, still, he's not having it, and he will do whatever it takes and to confront Aldo and such. And what happens next is, and I was enjoying what happened next because, well, Virgil mentioned, and because, obviously he heard this from McDonald, and because, well, thanks to McDonald, what he discovered by that branch and where Cornelius was, Virgil basically exposing Aldo entirely, that he killed Caesar's son. And because of what was mentioned early on, ape must not kill ape. And the fact that Aldo, which he is a primate / an ape, he killed another ape. And the fact that he was responsible for the murder, and basically, even though he didn't actually kill him and such with that knife he has, that long knife, he was responsible for cutting that branch and causing Cornelius to hit on that rock and to later on die. So and so basically, it's true. Aldo is responsible, and he did murder Cornelius. And, well, because this was a great moment, and especially for Caesar, and the performance that Roddy McDowall gives right there as Caesar, the look in his face, and to finally hear that, and that goes for all the other primates, and Lisa, to find out that Aldo murdered another ape. Because, again, ape must not kill ape, and thus Aldo did. And now they're all against Aldo. And Aldo, by this point, he becomes terrified. He's definitely screwed now. And they start chanting, ape killed ape, however they said it. It's really cool. And Aldo just kind of trying to get out of there, and he starts climbing a tree, and one human asks, what is happening and so on, and McDonald saying that, let's just say the apes have now joined the human race, and they pretty much have, and after what Aldo did. So again, Aldo climbing up a tree, he, again, by this point, is terrified, and Caesar, he starts climbing up the tree too, and the suspense and the music and such, it's just getting there what's about to happen. And I was wondering, and I predicted it again, how Aldo would most likely get killed, and Caesar, saying to Aldo, you murdered my son, and so on. And what can Aldo do? Well, he tries his luck, and he whips out his long knife and such, trying to, kill and strike at Caesar, but, Caesar is quick enough to grab him and such, and cause him to fall to his death. Yeah, Aldo got a taste of, well, what happened when he murdered Cornelius by causing him to fall and land to his death. Although Cornelius did survive for a while, but for Aldo, oh no, because that was quite a long fall, and even though we don't see him hit the ground, we know because, well, he did fall to his death. And yep, that's the end of Aldo. And so the humans, they are freed and let go. Everything is okay now in Ape City, and they dispose the weapons and, return it to, where Mandemus, if I'm saying the name right still, they return it back to where he lives, and, he holds the weapons. And even when early on, Aldo and the guerrilla soldiers, they tried to ask Mendes to open Mendemes, I gotta slow down still, to open up and such, and they needed weapons because the war was coming to them of those humans and mutants. They barged in and they took them, and even Mendemes saying that Caesar forbids this and such. But yeah, So, taking the weapons back, and Mendemez tells Caesar that, he wants to, leave that one hut, keeping the weapons and such. He's done, and so on. And, and what's going to happen next for, Ape City and the future of ape and human race? And, some positive things said by Virgil, MacDonald, and also, Caesar and Lisa, too. Yeah, so all ends well, and to speed things up and to wrap up, because, coming back to, where we started, and, because the story of what happened in the events of Battle for the Planet of the Apes being told by the lawgiver, again, being played by the late John Huston, finishing the story. And basically he was telling this story to a group of human and ape children, and, only the dead would know, however they say it, that being one of the last lines, and, what's next for the future, and where they're at in 2067, and, and the last shot we see, and the camera pans, basically, to a statue of Caesar with a scroll, and for some reason, because the statue of Caesar, shed a tear. I don't know what that was about. My guess is, well, Caesar being very emotional / happy on what's going on and the hope for the future between the ape and human race, that there can be peace. Because, Caesar always wanting peace and no harm and war between his kind and the humans. Yeah, so that's basically what it is. And because of what my dad said, because, Conquest, it began the Planet of the Apes, and from there on, and, up until many years later, and obviously after the events of Battle, and where the movie begins and ends with the lawgiver telling the story to the children, how the astronauts and, Taylor arriving back, and possibly, but, that could be, but, I guess it's left for us audiences to wonder what, in the Planet of the Apes movie franchise, what the future lies in store. But yeah, it was a nice way to end the final chapter / installment in the original Planet of the Apes movie franchise, Battle. Battle for the Planet of the Apes. It was not that bad. I quite enjoyed this final installment of the original line of the Planet of the Apes movies, starting with the original and up to this. The story for Battle, I think, was pretty good, not that bad. The characters and, some new characters and new allies, well, antagonists, I should say, from Aldo and this time Culp being the main human antagonist, the Forbidden City, what the future could lie after the events of Battle, as I said, and what the movie says, and with the lawgiver, the battle and action sequences, the funny / emotional moments, everything about Battle was not that bad. It may not be the best sequel to the original Planet of the Apes films, but it's not that bad, and like I said, I don't think it's at the same level as Beneath, okay? I can guarantee you that. And I'm giving Battle for the Planet of the Apes, good question. That is a good question, because, yeah, it's on my mind, and what the heck, I'm giving it 7 out of 10 stars. That's right, 7 out of 10 stars for Battle for the Planet of the Apes. And what about you guys? What did you think of the final chapter / installment of the Planet of the Apes films, Battle for the Planet of the Apes? Again, would you consider it one of your favorite Planet of the Apes films? From the original line of the Planet of the Apes films? Did you think the story was not that bad? And with the characters, the intense full moments, the funny / emotional moments, the action and battle, yeah, everything that I've had to say about it. And the music, too, the music was good, too. Almost forgot to mention that. The music was good, too. Yeah, and again, all that I've had to say about Battle, and what did you think? of my review. Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the final chapter/installment of the original Planet of the Apes films, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review. And of course, continuing on with the Planet of the Apes review marathon, because yeah, after the final chapter/installment, which being Battle, and not long after Battle came out, like I said, there would be 2 Planet of the Apes TV shows, 1 live action and 1 animated. And after those 2 Planet of the Apes shows came and went, that was it. The Planet of the Apes franchise was laid to rest for a handful of years, but it wasn't until in the early 2000s, 20th Century Fox would attempt to resurrect the franchise in a fresh new way, and their attempt to bring the franchise back would be in the hands and directed by Tim Burton. Yeah, and spoiler alert, it didn't go so well, and their attempt to bring the franchise back would fail at first. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out.